as we get ready to talk to Bryan Hayes, our good friend from Overdrive on TSN Radio. Luke Wilson, Brian, he recently said on this show he's not ready to count Aaron Rodgers out just yet. He's not ready to count the Jets out just yet, even though they're 2-6. And Rodgers continues to say all sorts of interesting things in post-game press conferences and in off days. My question for you is, are you ready to count them out?
Yes, I am. Emphatically, I'm ready to count them out. I'm ready to count Aaron Rodgers out, the New York Jets out. You just referenced the line on Thursday night. I am flummoxed by this. What am I missing here? How is it possible the New York Jets are favored against anybody at this point, let alone the Houston Texans? I know they've got some injuries at wideout. I know it's a short week on the road. Maybe everyone on earth is just assuming at some point the Jets will fumble their way into actually winning a football game. But I can't quite figure that out. And I am absolutely finished with the Jets. And, Jay, I've never been on board with the Jets. I was never a believer in the Jets for multiple reasons. And I guess I'll start with Aaron Rodgers. There's too much going against this guy. He's 40 years old, coming off the Achilles. He's not comfortable. He looks skittish to me in the pocket. He looks nervous. He looks like he's scared to make throws, to step into throws. I don't think he trusts his offensive line. I think there's a lot going against him, including where he's at in terms of his ego. I don't think he can adjust his game at 40, not at 100%. He still thinks he's in his prime, and he's not in his prime, so he's not going to make any adjustments. And the biggest thing going against Aaron Rodgers and me having any faith in him is the team he plays for. They're poisonous. I mean, the New York Jets, they cannot get it done. They cannot win. They are so dysfunctional. The owner's a mess. Now their head coach is also the defensive coordinator. They don't have a kicker. Greg the Leg, I mean, that's a completely inappropriate name for this guy now. He can't kick anything. The Jets are a mess. Rodgers, it's only going to get uglier. It's a circus. It's a soap opera. And I think the episode tomorrow night is going to be an exceptional one. I cannot wait to see it.
It's always great times, and it's in prime time right here on the network. The Timothy Liljegren circus has decided to fold up the tent. It's leaving Toronto. It's heading to the Bay Area in San Jose. Toronto trades their disgruntled defenseman to the Sharks. What were your first thoughts, Brian, when you heard about the Lilejgren trade?
Probably that their disgruntled forward, Nick Robertson, wishes it was him, Jay. That's really what stood out to me, was that all offseason we were talking about Nick Robertson as the guy who wanted opportunity, and if it wasn't going to work, he wanted out. He's a California guy. I'm sure he's looking at Lilejgren thinking, can this be a package deal? Can I go with you here? But this made sense. I mean, Lilejgren, he has a $3 million cap hit for this year and next, and he's nowhere close to playing for Craig Berube. It wasn't going to happen. He gave him one game. He didn't like what he saw, and he came out. Connor Timmins has passed him. Philip Myers was playing ahead of Timothy Liljegren, and if and when Jakinpaw returns, clearly he would play ahead of Lilejgren as well. So I think it's smart business for the Leafs. Get out from underneath the contract. You get a couple of draft picks. They need them. I mean, they have traded so many picks away year after year at the trade deadline. I'm not even certain they'll keep these draft picks that they got from San Jose, because they might flip them at the trade deadline. But this is proof that Craig Berube, Brad Treliving, they see players differently. They seem to see the team differently. And Lilejgren is an analytical darling at times. For me, he's a third pairing or a seventh defenseman on a non-playoff team, and that's perfect for him. He'll go there and he'll actually look pretty good in San Jose at times. There was no way he was going to play in the playoffs, and especially for a Craig Berube coach team. So this was inevitable. They had to move on from him. Make your move. The next one now, step up Nick Robertson, because he's in a similar situation, only he's been given opportunity. Unlike Lilejgren, he never played this year. But I would have to believe that Robertson is the next one on the docket that they're likely going to move from at some point in the future. And Berube, Treliving, they're going to build this team differently. They're looking at this team differently. The Dubas-Keefe era, this is just one more piece now that's moving on, and it's going to have a different feel. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be bolder. It's going to be more physical. And I think that's going to be a good thing for the Maple Leafs in the future.
As for last year's Stanley Cup finalists, the Edmonton Oilers, they found out Wednesday that Connor McDavid will be out 2 to 3 weeks with that ankle injury he suffered in Monday's loss to Columbus. Brian, my question for you is the inevitable stepping up of Leon Draisaitl. We know it's going to happen, but will it be enough for the Oilers to start to rise in the standings? It's been another disappointing start for them.
Yeah, it's a real fork in the road here, Jay, where they can look at this as the spark. getting McDavid out of the lineup, which may seem counterintuitive. Obviously, you would want the best player in the world to help drag you out of the lineup. But I think at times, that team, and I'm sure this applies to a lot of great players in different sports, they look at the big guy and they say, you got to lead for us, and then we'll follow suit. And McDavid hasn't had a great start, and everyone's kind of filtered underneath him. So there's a fork in the road here. You can either get a spark from this and say, collectively throughout the dressing room, we all got to rise up here, or you can allow it to sink you. And 10 to 12 games from now, if and when McDavid returns and he's close to 100%, they're 20 games into their season and chasing the playoffs. That'll have a very different tone, but I don't think that'll be the case. And that's because of one guy in particular, and it's Leon Draisaitl. I love this opportunity for Leon to put his stake in the ground and let everyone know exactly who he is. And I think, obviously, people are aware of how great he is. For me, he's the best playoff performer in the NHL, and that's been the case for at least 2 or 3 years now. But as of next year, he'll be the highest paid player in the game. He is about to be the highest paid player in the game. Obviously, McDavid will pass that a year later. He won a Hart Trophy in 2020 when McDavid got hurt and they were in a bind. And they went on a big road trip through Florida, through the East Coast, and Draisaitl was a beast. And I think that's what's going to happen starting tomorrow night in Nashville. I love Leon Draisaitl stepping up here. I think it's going to be a big moment for him because this happens collectively throughout sports and throughout the NHL. Mark Messier at times in the shadow of Gretzky. Evgeny Malkin in the shadow of Sidney Crosby. Let's face it, Draisaitl a lot of times in the shadow of McDavid. But outside of McDavid, there may not be a better player in the league. Maybe McKinnon, maybe Kucherov, maybe Matthews, maybe Makar. But I think over the next 2 or 3 weeks, the best player in the league, I wouldn't be surprised at all if it's Leon Draisaitl. And I looked it up on FanDuel before I came on here with you, Jay. For him to win the Hart Trophy, 30-1 odds.
Wow.
I'm jumping on that.
Yeah.
This guy won it in 2020. Again, like I referenced, there's no reason for him not to put the Superman cape on right before Halloween. It'll be Halloween tomorrow night in Nashville. I'll bet you he plays like Superman. I'll bet you he's a beast in Nashville. I'd be willing to put money on that. And I think he rocks out over the next 2 weeks. And if they come out of this and they're rolling, and Draisaitl's rolling, and McDavid jumps on that moving train, it could be a very, very different tone in Edmonton, and the rest of the league will be watching out for it 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Boy, I think you've convinced a few of our viewers to head over to FanDuel right now and check out Leon at 30-1. This guy, listen, Harvey's has been serving up burgers for 65 years. This guy, Bryan Hayes, has been serving up hot takes since 1983, the same year that Donna Summer told us how hard she works for the money. She didn't work half as hard as Bryan Hayes.
Hot Takes is presented by Harvey's. Customize your burger and get it delivered from our app to your door. Harvey's, it's a beautiful thing.